You are listening to the Do Something More podcast, and this is episode 39 with Ben Lyne from @RunnerGuy with a Sign, spreading encouragement and inspiration through motivational running. Welcome to the Do Something More podcast, a service-oriented show where we highlight the helpers who inspire us all to do something more. I'm your host, Melissa Draper. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, and today I'm super excited to talk with Ben Lyne because he is what he calls himself, a motivational runner. And I first learned about Ben through his Instagram handle @RunnerGuy with a Sign, and was just, as a fellow runner, thought it was really cool, the things that he's doing. But I'm going to let him share a little bit more about that. But first, Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Why don't you just start off by just telling us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I had a kind of a non-typical early life. I was born in Australia. I'm full-blooded Australian.
Oh, wow.
Can't do much of an accent anymore, but because my parents passed away when I was almost 4.
Oh.
And I was the youngest. So me and the rest of my sisters there were 7 of us, so 6 sisters that are older. We went to the US to live with a family that was friends with my mom because the other family we had there couldn't take us in. And that ended up being the best option for us. So we actually moved about the age of 4 from there to kind of close to Melbourne all the way to New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Which is a little different. And then lived there until about the age of 10. That family turned out to not be, they didn't turn out to be the greatest people on earth. Were physically abusive. And about the age of 10, I got out of there and went to Utah here where my oldest sister, Kelly, was living. And eventually, actually around 10, just before my 10th birthday, went to live with a family and then was adopted by them officially a couple years later. There's a process that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen right away, but they ended up being, some of the best people to ever live, in my opinion. So through all those experiences, had a very atypical childhood, for those at least growing up around here in Utah had.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, I had lived there until I went on a mission at age 19 to Southern California, came back when I was 21, got married at 22 and lived in Layton. And then now I live in Eagle Mountain. We have 5 kids.
Yeah, those experiences, I think, could be a whole episode in themselves. That is definitely a unique background, but I'm sure is what has inspired you to do some of the things that you do now. So
Yep.
I would love to hear more about this, your runner guy with a sign, how this all started and what kind of motivated it.
Yeah. And, just like most things in reality they kind of happen over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I credit my good friend John Gifford. He lived when we moved to Eagle Mountain and built a house. We lived out in City Center, which is like the farthest part of Eagle Mountain, and there's pretty much just houses out there, not a lot of houses even. And so it's kind of a tight knit group in there. And about a house over from my house, same house number, different street, made friends with John, and we went running together. He convinced me to go running with him. Then it became kind of a competition because I like competition.
Mm-hmm.
I could do this, or I can do better than John. And so he used that to kind of, we ran marathons together and all kinds of other races. And then eventually over the years, I got tired of racing and just wanted to, run for fun, run without a schedule. And so I did that for a number of years. And then about 2019, so we'd moved in Eagle Mountain. We live on the north side of Eagle Mountain now. I was out running one day and got a small idea, right? Like, hey, I'm not out very much. I'm always kind of thinking, and due to my upbringing in the LDS church and different things, there's always a lot of things that I was taught to serve, right? And I've seen the benefits firsthand of doing that. And but sitting at home all day, working at home in an office, I don't get a lot of chances to be out. So I was out running, had the idea that, hey, I pass all these people, and it's usually early in the morning, so they're probably driving to work or school or driving kids, and you don't find a lot of happy faces, right? I can remember commuting. I can, and I take kids to school and do things like that. And it's not like the first place on your list you want to be, especially early in the morning. So I had the idea like, hey, I wonder if I could do something to motivate these people because I see, estimate at least a few hundred people probably, depending on how far I run. But if I could do something in those few seconds to motivate them, like that would be a cool thing. So I got the idea, didn't have the sign idea right away or what it would say, but this process went on for about 2.5 years. So I would get the idea, I would get excited about it. Sometimes at one point I wrote it down when I got home and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a sign and I'm going to run with it. And then people that can't run, I'm going to put together events. We'll stand on the corners. Like we'll just really spread positivity. And I would get this really amazing feeling, right? Thinking about that, but not being, crazy extroverted, not liking unwanted attention, thinking through it and thinking, okay, if I were out running with this sign, like people are going to be thinking this guy's nuts. Like what is he doing, right? Or worse, okay, people think I'm nuts, but if my kids go to school and they're like, hey, your dad's nuts, like your family's crazy, right? I didn't want any of that kind of negative things coming towards our family either. And so I kind of talked myself out of it. And then I would get the idea again at some point. Like I go around my day and get to work and it's just like, nah, that's not a good idea. All the doubts creep in. And unfortunately, I let that happen for about 2.5 years. And what changed 2.5 years later is COVID happened, I think, which is a big part of it that to kind of spark it. That was in 2020. I didn't start doing it till 2021. Actually, no, 2022, last year in February. So as we get into this next year, 2024, it'll be 2 years. But because of COVID, being disconnected from people, we love to travel. We couldn't travel. You had all the political fighting going on. There was some political, fighting even in our family. You had, neighborhoods or going to church or different things. People, oh, you wear a mask, you're stupid. Oh, you don't want to wear a mask, you're stupid. And you had all these.
All right.
You had Trump and Biden and all these things going on, right? And it's just, I got kind of just to the point where I just felt kind of tired of all of it, all of that. Just tired of the fighting, tired of the negativity, tired of the disconnection. Mm-hmm. And there was one point, I never felt like I was ever suffered from depression. I know we all get depressed about stuff, but I would never have said like, hey, I've had depression, right? Where it goes on for a longer amount of time. It's more intense, those types of things. I think it was a form of depression where not to the point where I didn't get out of bed or I had suicidal thoughts or anything like that. It was more just like emotional, like spiritual weariness, right? Just like, I'm just tired. Why can't people just stop? So I remember feeling like, man, I feel so uninspired. And so I don't want to talk to anybody. I have nothing to say. Like, I hope I hadn't spoken in church for a while. I hope they don't ask me to speak or something like that, because maybe they'll ask me to speak. And of course, a week later, I get a call that to speak in sacrament meeting. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. And then I just thought, I don't want to do it. I have nothing to say to anybody. Right. And I was given a topic of love thy neighbor. I thought, that's one of my favorite topics. I love that, but I don't feel like I have anything to say. I'm feeling so uninspired, so weary of all of this stuff. And so I said, I think the next day I said a prayer and it's like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I'm just tired of feeling this way. And then I just went about my business. Nothing really changed. And the next time I went to run, I got about a mile into the run and then I got the idea again. And this time, it was like a really, really forceful, to the core of my heart kind of thought, you need to do this and it's going to go well and you'll have something to talk about, right? It'll be a lot of fun, right? And I got really excited about it again and I made a commitment. Okay, I'm going to do that. I had a few days until the next time I ran and I thought, okay, on Tuesday I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the sign. I didn't know what I was going to say, really. I didn't know how I was going to make it. I put it off. I procrastinated. I don't want to do this. And so Monday night at like 8 p.m., I'm sitting on the couch after I helped put my daughter to bed. It was about 6 at the time. And then I'm like, okay, I've got to do this. And I know that my wife's crafty. She usually has things. So I went to her craft room. She gave me some poster board and I took it downstairs and I started making a sign. I tried to write on it. Couldn't do it very well, but I decided on, I believe in you. I thought that was something that really resonated with me, that made sense to me. And it wasn't something creepy or weird.
Yeah, it's a pretty universal message.
Yeah. And it's not something I came up with, right? It's a pretty common thing that that people say from time to time. And I thought it would be something great. So I decided on that, ended up like printing out letters in Google Docs on paper and then like taping them on to the poster board. And then I had my sign. I thought, okay, it's done. I'll do it tomorrow morning. And I woke up in the morning and I just had all this dread, like, I have to do it. Like, I can't back out, right? But I don't want to. I just feel
Mhm.
good. And I don't know how it's going to go. And I'm just, oh, how's it going to go? And I grabbed it eventually and just went out the door, started running with it. And people right away, responded really positively, honking, waving. I got really kind of excited running, and it ended up being something that was really fun to do, and didn't realize the physical toll that it was adding to
Mhm.
my cardiovascular system. So I probably should have only ran a few miles or something to get used to it, but I was like, I got about 2.5 miles away from home, and then thought, oh, I've got to make it all the way back. I'm going to be probably over 5 miles, and I feel like I'm going to die right now.
Mhm.
But
As
I
a
made it.
fellow runner, I can somewhat identify. I can only imagine holding that sign up and running like that.
Yeah, and I didn't
So,
mean to hold it up above my head. I just thought I'll hold it at chest level because that's where your hands are anyway.
uh-huh.
But every time I saw a car, I like, okay, I got to hold it up, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't hold it up the entire time. I hold it up when there's people there to see it. So if there's a long line of cars, I will have it up the whole time. But as soon as there's a break in cars, there's no one around, I'll pull it back down. But man, I don't know why I chose to run on the highway because there's just very few breaks.
Yeah, lots of cars.
I was able to get through it, and then I did it, in those following weeks up to my talk, gave a talk on it, and it was an amazing experience. Had a lot of people come up to me, text me, and just say, "Wow, that was so amazing. Thank you so much." Just had so many good things come from it. But then I was kind of wondering, like, should I keep doing this? Right? I want to do it, but can I do this every time? Should I do it once a week?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how my body can hold up doing this or not. And I was kind of doubting if I should do it every time. And then a friend said, hey, someone's giving you some love on Facebook in a group. And so I got added to the group, and I started reading all of these. Somebody had posted that they saw me, posted a picture of me. Of course, it's a picture of me. It looked like I was about on my deathbed. But you have this mental image, like I looked, so
It
great.
looked
Oh,
amazing. Yeah.
I looked like I was almost dead.
Yeah.
Just appreciating seeing me, and then having their daughter with them in the car, and they had this really positive talk on believing in themselves, right? And how positive that is. And then
Yeah.
everybody responding to it and then writing comments, oh, I saw you, right? And just sharing little stories about what happened. And those posts and those things became kind of a regular thing. And so I started having, now I have hundreds and hundreds of little stories and comments from people, and
That's
all kinds of
great.
things, amazing things started to happen. I knew I had to keep doing it. Yeah, it's just a wide range of things, right? Like just small things from, hey, it made my day,
Mhm.
to like it changed the way, my relationship with my parents. I decided to try and do this again. I'm going to stay in school now. I'm whatever it was people are struggling with. And then I think the biggest one that really hit home with me was, I saw, this was about 6 months in, I saw a guy about 100 yards ahead of me. He U-turned and he pulled over. And I've had a couple people do that.
Mhm.
I always get a little bit nervous about that.
Right. Right.
I don't know, what's the intention, right? But it's probably fine. As I got closer, he rolled down the window and crouched down, and he was in tears and said that he was struggling with some things. He was driving around, and he had just decided he was going to end his life.
Oh my goodness.
And then right after that, he saw me, and he said it had such a huge effect on him. Right, it snapped him right out of it, and he decided, I'm gonna battle through that, and I'm not gonna do it. So that floored me, and that was a huge
Wow.
emotional experience for me, and just really solidified that, hey, I can't stop doing this. It really helped put any doubts that I had about, can I keep this up? Can I do this? And now it was like, and I've got to do this. This is having a huge impact. It would seem like a lot of responsibility, right? Because I don't look at it as, hey, if I don't get out today, someone might, not see me, and it might cause problems. I need to get out there, and it's a huge stress. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That I'm getting out there, getting exercise, but I'm helping spark something in people really they do all the work. I'm really doing, less than 1% of the work. I'm just running by with a sign for a few seconds. And they see that and then they take that and they do amazing things with that, which really speaks to, they were amazing the whole time. I just reminded them
Right.
of that. And if I can have
Yeah.
that effect, I don't know how many people I affect every time I run, but like I said, a few hundred or more
Mhm.
every, a few times a week adds up, and that has a large butterfly effect on, hey, maybe, for example, the next 5 cars I see, the first guy sees me and he decides not to road rage
Right.
5 minutes later, right? And cause an
Yeah.
accident or cause a fatality, or this person saw me and it helped them, treat their spouse a little bit better or change their entire outlook on life or whatever it is, right? And you have that effect on people. And
Yeah, it's definitely a ripple out effect.
yeah, definitely. So
And I love how you shared that getting that feedback helped you realize, hey, this is important. I can keep doing this because I'm sure it's not always easy. Like I said, as a runner, I know
no,
that we don't always love and look forward to those long runs, but it's amazing when you get just a little tiny bit of feedback, how that can bolster you to keep doing what you're doing.
yeah, it's all the difference. I think we get so blind to actually how good things are, but we don't necessarily see it. We think, oh, things are bad, things aren't going my way. And all it takes is just a little reminder from somebody else, some external validation from somebody.
Right.
It's like my wife. She's been to the store and with our younger kids in past years and having a hard time, and they're not cooperating. And someone walks by and says, "Oh, man, I really admire how you handle your kids. You're doing such a great job." Or, "Hey, your hair is pretty," right?
All right.
Just saying those little words makes. I mean, she remembers that forever. I remember things like that when people say things, and so I think even me, I'm out there running with the sign when I hear the feedback, like that's needed.
So
But
true.
luckily, I hear it so often. I just get such a kick out of it. I mean, we need to spread it and get it out in front of people in other areas and other cities. And I just want to spread it over the whole world because I know how powerful now just a few kind words are.
Right. Yeah, and I love what you shared there at the beginning of your story, how you went back and forth, how it was this idea, as someone myself who it took me over a decade to do this podcast, how you bounced, that idea had to keep coming back and you
Yes.
had to kind of let it sit there and marinate maybe for a little bit and then finally get the courage to do it. I think that's a good reminder too for anyone that's wanting to do something good and that it's totally normal to feel that hesitation about it and that it does take a little courage to finally step forward and do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a process.
So I love you were sharing that you would love to spread more of this. What are some of your thoughts or ideas with that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of things I want to do. Some of the things I've done already is I've run in other areas in other countries, and when I go on vacation or in my line of work, I work for a tech company that does consulting. And so from time to time, we have to travel to different companies and different customers and meet with them in
Mhm,
person.
mhm.
And I don't even care where that is, right? It could be, I've been all over different places, but it could be Corning, middle of nowhere, Corning, New York, or Omaha, or wherever it is, right? And I get excited because now I can get in front of a new group of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw on your Instagram you just did Japan and you had your sign in Japanese.
Yeah, it's always nerve wracking going to a new country because you don't know the culture.
Mhm.
I mean, you know it in theory because you've watched videos or talked to people, but I always wonder, like, how is this going to go over, right? In this new area, this new country. And with Japan, being a completely different culture, and I know that they value looking out for others and not bothering other people.
Mhm.
That's really huge in their culture. And so I thought, will I be bothering somebody? Will they not appreciate that? So and plus I wanted to make sure that the sign meant something to them. And I found out that I believe in you didn't really translate directly very well.
Mhm.
And so I talked to some Japanese people and some other people that had lived there and spoken Japanese and came to the conclusion that gambare, which is something they use to motivate each other and say, like, hang in there, keep it up.
Oh, okay.
And so I used that on my sign, and it definitely resonated with them and had, all the same kinds of fun experiences, right? People clapping, yelling back, positive things, not negative things,
Uh-huh.
honking, things like that. Still had the same kinds of experiences there that I have had everywhere else. So
That's
that
great.
was an amazing experience. Wonderful, awesome people over there.
Yeah, and it looks like from your pictures that you've graduated from that original poster board.
Yeah, so I had my original sign, and I didn't that first run I didn't cover it in tape. I just taped the letters on.
Oh, okay.
And if I don't know, you think sweaty hands and outside isn't a good, it's not a very good combination for poster board. It doesn't last very long. So I realized I had to cover it in tape. And so I kind of patchwork taped it up with shipping tape.
Uh-huh.
And that worked okay for a while. And then I ran with it for over a year and it got really ragged. I think, I don't know what happened, but I noticed a hole in it, almost like a rock went through it or a BB got shot at me. I don't, I don't know. So there's holes in it. There's, little areas where mold started to kick in, and I've got it hanging on my wall, but I did retire it. I went to another poster board sign that I moved on from paper letters to vinyl because I have a vinyl cutter. And then I had an idea because it's like when I would go on trips, I'd have to fold that up in a suitcase to roll it up.
Right.
And that takes a toll on it. And I told my wife, because she's very crafty. She knits, she sews, she does all kinds of things. So I said, hey, I have this idea. If I can get some kind of fabric that's, kind of weatherproof, that's really lightweight, that doesn't stretch when you pull on it, and it won't tear or anything like that. And then I can put some, if you just have some slots in the end, I can put some wooden dowels or something in that. And then I can take that with me on trips and roll it up. And so she made that for my birthday, and I moved to that sign, and I just kind of heat pressed vinyl onto that,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
worked really
great.
well. And I've kind of iterated on that as well. I have all these other ideas for light up signs, and I have a reflective sign
Mm.
just to make it easier for people to to see it, no matter what time of day, right, or
Right.
what area I'm in. But yeah, I've definitely
And
moved on from the original sign. It would have ripped in half by now.
yeah. And I think the sign is what kind of makes what you're doing unique, because you could put that on a shirt or in other ways, but there's
Yeah.
something that is different about seeing someone holding a sign above their head while running that I think catches people's attention and just kinda
And that
illustrates that message a little more.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's something I didn't realize right away. And actually somebody pointed out to me online, because people would comment and say, hey, you should, that looks really hard. You should make t-shirts, or, you should rig something so you don't have to hold it and things like that. And then somebody responded and said exactly what you said. And I thought that's a great point. Since I haven't seen myself do it, I mean, I've taken videos and things like that, but I've never been out driving and seen and experienced what the people see when they see me.
Right? It
So
is
they're
very unique what you're doing.
Yeah, right. And therefore, someday when I see somebody, I'm gonna freak out, and I'll probably scare the person to death when I just chase after him to get a picture and hug him. But
Yeah.
I didn't really, I hadn't really seen that, and so what you said is exactly right. People, to see somebody going through the effort to do something difficult to get that message to you means so much more than a sign on the side of the road or a T-shirt. Yeah, for sure. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, it drives the point a little more. So,
Yeah.
well, do you have a specific, I know you kinda mentioned this, but do you have a specific schedule or routes that you stick to? I mean, I know runners, we kinda have schedules and routes anyways, but that you follow, or do you just kinda go out when you're feeling like it's a good time, or what have you kind of
Yeah,
stuck
I
to?
have kind of a workout schedule. Like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday are my running days usually, unless travel interferes with that and I have to move things.
Mhm.
And then Monday, Wednesday, I'll do weights, and then I don't do anything on Friday or Sunday. Sometimes, depending on, I went on a business trip and I went for a run, and then coworkers I was there with said, "Hey, you run with your sign. Can I come with you tomorrow?" And I thought, "Okay, we'll go again." So, I'll run a couple days in a row sometimes if things
Someone
like that
wants to
happen.
join you?
Yeah, I try to run a few times a week. And usually, almost every week, I run 3 times unless something pops up, and usually not less than like 4 to 5 miles, and then
Wow.
sometimes longer. Right, it just depends. Sometimes I get tired of running. I don't have specific routes that, I mean, there's only so many routes from where I live,
Right.
but sometimes I will like drive out to the high school, which is about 6 miles away,
Mhm.
or catch a ride with one of my kids, and then I'll run home in the morning.
Yeah.
Or, I'll ask my wife, hey, I'm going to run down the highway, going to go past Costco down to Lehigh or something. Can you pick me up in an hour? Right.
Right.
And just to get out of the monotony of running the same areas. But
Yep.
Since I've been doing this too, it's a factor, right? Like I try to pay attention, like where should I run today? Most of the time I'll try to get out in front of people where there's, the most people, but not always. Like sometimes I just feel, and this is something I've gotten better at over the last couple of years, is I'll get a thought like, hey, I should do this or go to this place. And then usually I would have just kind of disregarded it, like that's just, myself.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I should go here. Or, hey, I could go here. But I notice when I follow through on those things, like something always comes out of it, like something significant. One thing I do is I have these little, I wanted to leave something when I ran, and just
Mm-hmm.
and trying to spread as much positivity as I could. I thought, hey, I could bring something with me, and then I could leave it somewhere, and somebody could find it, right? Like a little packet with a letter in it, and I 3D print. I have 3D printers, and I 3D print my little versions of my sign,
Okay.
and I put them in there. And so I have a little letter, and I have that, and I've recently got some stickers and magnets and things, and I'll put them in there. And the letter just kind of explains, my story, and then ask people like, hey, if you're feeling up to it, here's my number, text me back and let me know you got it, or
Oh,
do something nice for somebody today. And
like a
I
little
leave,
inspirational geocache.
yeah, I'll leave them around town. Sometimes I'll tie them to a tree, or I'll a bench, or it just depends. Sometimes I had one experience where I ran past somebody's house and then had the thought, I need to go back and leave it at their house. And I thought, that's like a quarter of a mile back. I don't want to turn around. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. So I went back and did it. And the next day I got a text, and it was this big, long, awesome story
Oh, wow.
about how they really needed that. And they were able to, spread that to their friends. And then husband had cancer and was really struggling. And
Wow.
I probably get about one in every 20 I leave, I'll get a text back.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I felt like I had to go back, I didn't want to, but I did, and I got a text back, is just kind of
Yeah.
just evidence that, hey, I was supposed to do that. That was really needed there. And so I
Right.
try to be open to that. But with life and all the distractions and things, I'm not always in that state of mind. But yeah, just try to put thought into where does it feel right to be,
Yeah.
instead of like what's the best route to get my workout in.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder that there are so many in the world who are struggling or going through hard things, and it really does not take much to help them feel lifted and loved and valued and all of those things. So,
Yeah, for sure.
and the other thing I love about what you do is you've taken something that's natural for you. Maybe not everyone would want to be a motivational runner, but it's something you enjoy, and you've taken it and used it to serve. And I love that reminder too, that we can really take anything that is natural to us and use that to serve others. So,
Yeah, and we all have something, or we all have multiple things. So
right.
it's fun to, when you come across those things and you do them, and you think, well, that was just for me, because like you said, like the running, I had to be running in the first place.
Right.
And the way I got involved with that, and then coming up with the idea and receiving some inspiration, and it's everybody has that opportunity, or those opportunities. We just have to, what I've learned is that when you have a good thought to do something good, like you just do it, no matter how inconvenient or weird it is.
So true.
Right? As long as
Yeah.
it's legal, right? It's a good thing. And something great comes from it. And it's always very, it's not in a way that you expect. It's just very unexpected. But it's, if we can tune into those good thoughts, like just act on them. And the more you act on them, the more you pay attention, you'll notice the more you'll have.
Right.
And you just tap into that, and amazing things happen. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah. So true. That's great. Well, I would just love to close with any advice or encouragement that you would give to someone that's learned about what you do and wants to be a motivational runner, or really anyone that's wanting to spread positivity and encouragement to those around them. What advice or encouragement would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants to, to be a motivational runner, I will definitely, help get you a sign and all those things. You can go to my Instagram for sure, and message me there. But yeah, like I was talking about before, we all need encouragement. We all need external validation, because we don't realize how amazing and awesome we already are. The advice I would give is just, and it's not these amazing, life changing necessarily, situations that you find change your life. It's these really small, simple things and thoughts that if you listen to those good thoughts and those ideas that pop into your head and you act on those, it just really grows into something amazing. So if you're finding yourself struggling, if you're finding yourself down, know that, this happens to everybody. Also know that you're amazing and you're of high worth and high potential, and that you're just struggling with those things. But just try to do something good for others. Try to do something small and see the effect that it'll have on you. Could change your life completely. And then the more you act on that, the better you'll feel about that. And it might not solve all your problems. Definitely hasn't solved all of mine, but it changes your whole outlook on life. And then you realize of all the potential that you have and the things that you can do, and you start to do those things, and it completely changes your life. Do more good things, I guess I would do to summarize.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Ben. This has been a great interview, and I've loved learning more about what has motivated you to do your motivational running. Do you just want to end with giving us where others can find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, I mean, some people have found me at my house. I'm okay with that as long as you don't, aren't scary. But I'm on Instagram, and that's where I put pretty much everything I do. I have been on other platforms like YouTube and TikTok and things like that, but I don't really have time to focus on a lot, and so I focus pretty much everything onto my Instagram. So if you want to track me down, I post there pretty regularly. I'll put out reels sometimes, but I have a lot of really cool things planned that I want to spread this movement, and I want to get people involved that want to run, people involved that don't want to run, want to just, be uplifted or do uplifting things for others. I have all kinds of cool things that will be coming down the pipe here over the next year. So go to my Instagram. It's runner guy with a sign, and you can see any updates there or other things that I post.
That's great. I'll put links to that in the show notes. And as a runner, I will be following along to see some of those great things you have coming out. So thanks again, Ben, for this interview.
Thank you. I totally enjoyed it, Melissa. Thank you so much.
That was my interview with Ben Lyne from at Runner Guy with a Sign. And it's just really a unique and amazing story, even from what he started by sharing about his childhood all the way to how he was motivated to start running with his sign and wanting to inspire others and send some positivity out into the world. And I loved how he shared that it was a process there in the beginning, that this idea kept coming back to him over 2.5 years, kind of bumping back into his thoughts. And he might have some worries about it, or the doubts would creep in. But eventually, he was able to act on those thoughts that he'd had and made a simple sign and started running with it. And then it's amazing to me the reactions that he's received, sometimes all over the world and in his own community, on social media or through comments or through others, even just stopping to tell him what seeing him running with his sign meant to them. It's such a huge reminder as you listen to that story of his, and not just with running, but with the little positive geocaches he's left too. Such a good reminder how much people around us, everyone, needs to know that they're loved, that they're valued, that they need encouragement, they need positivity, they need to be lifted and inspired. And it really doesn't take much to help someone realize that. I loved how he shared that what he was doing was just a small part of the equation, that people just needed that little reminder that they are amazing and that they are valued and that they can make it with whatever difficult circumstance they're in. So, just want to leave these final thoughts. You might not be a runner like Ben is, and that might not be how you feel inspired to reach out to the world. But I guarantee there are people in your life right now who need your talents. They need the way you look at life, your perspective, your experiences. They need that love and positivity and upliftment and encouragement from you. It doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to be super good at something to be able to spread that encouragement. And that's really what Ben's story shows us. So maybe you had some thoughts as you listened to this show. Maybe, like Ben, you've had some thoughts that have come to you over the years or things that keep coming back. And I just want to leave my own encouragement to follow through on those, to do what you can, to follow through and reach out and spread the love and positivity that you have to share with the world and those around you. And if you would like to show some love to the podcast, just a friendly reminder, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or follow the podcast. Or if you loved this episode and would like to share it with someone, you can do that as well. So thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time.